AI is doomed. No, not from a technological perspective. That is still a technology that is very useful in some specific areas. We're going to talk about that. But it's doomed from a financial standpoint. At least some of the companies that have poured a lot of billions in this technology to be the early adopters, to be the one that were leading the way, are probably going to find some problems because probably the value of the investment that they have done will not hold on. But we're going to talk about that in this video. So we're going to see, first of all, how the technology is deploying, how the investment is devaluating, and then we're going to see what we should expect on some of the companies that are in the tech area. Okay, so let's start from this news. By the way, why you should listen to me? Well, I just working in the AI space in a big company since 5 years, so I must know something. And I also hold an MBA, so probably I also know something about finance. So these are my basic qualification. Now let's start from this news, right? So Satya Nadella says is good for his 8 billion investment in AI. So think about what does it mean? Well, basically, Microsoft has committed since 2022, but probably also before, several billions in deploying a lot of AI infrastructure, a lot of Nvidia chips to make accelerated compute infrastructure. Now, the point is the following. After this investment, this is what we have seen on the stock, right? So, first of all, okay, let's just look at result. We are seeing a small increase in price compared to the overall market. But most of all, we are very seeing a modest increase in revenue, for example. Yeah, the net income is increased, that's good. But also net profit margin look to be stalled. So what's happening to the staggering growth that AI should generate? Well, basically, this is not happening. And we're going to see we are seeing also on some indicators such as the return of assets. As you can see, you see the assets have increased a lot. You can see, especially in the last 2 years, but the net income has not improved as quick as the expenses for the assets. So we're going to see an overall return on asset declining. So this is the problem. The AI promise has been probably broken. Okay, and so most of the headlines we are seeing says that we are hitting a diminishing returns. In fact, if you think about Microsoft partnered with OpenAI long ago, and 2 years back we had the GPT 3.4 model, and the currently GPT 4.0 is not that different, right? So we are not really see a huge rate of improvement, even though companies are investing a lot. And also, what I'm completely convinced about is that other ventures, such as the robotic general purpose robot, are all fake. The technology is not there. All the major experts of AI are saying, look, we're not going to see a humanoid robot with general purpose anytime soon. Okay. And now another big problem is coming. Okay. So in the last days, we have heard about this Chinese AI startup called Deepseek, right? Deepseek just realized a language model that is totally comparable with GPT-4, probably for OpenAI, and it looks like also it is comparable to the reasoning model called O1. Well, what is interesting by this is not that they get to this result, because at the end of the day, large language model are kind of keeping themselves very tight. For example, anthropic models are very similar in performance to OpenAI, Mistral, Meta, Llama. They are very close. Okay, but what is important about this model is that it took a very few amount of resources to deploy and develop this model, and it looks like it also will really need fewer resources. It's very efficient. And why this is important? Because if this is efficient, the cost of using large language model will decline. As a result, all the revenue that companies like Microsoft, Google, and so forth can make out of a large language model will be much lower, and as a result, we're probably going to see also a reduction in the price, in the value of the accelerated computer server that Nvidia, for example, provides. So let's move on. Even though there are these very bearish signals, there is something that is being considering a very bullish signal. In this case, we're talking about investment that Oracle, this gentleman, Larry Ellison, Sam Altman, and the CEO of SoftBank just announced, right? With a lot of Trump trumpets, so there were a lot of fanfare to present this project. That, by the way, is not really clear what they are trying to achieve, because they say, okay, we're going to put 100 billion on the table just for this year to build up an infrastructure. And then when discussing with Larry Harrison, he was talking about something related to probably clinical records, so healthcare, reports from the hospital. So I think the real deal is not to create a new artificial intelligence, but most of all to have access to critical information from healthcare, from the people, from hospital. So probably their goal there is most to enter the healthcare system from the digital area and build something there. But I don't think they're gonna make something really transformational, especially because it's not clear what they are trying to achieve. They just talk about investing $100 billion, but it's not clear to do what. Okay, so I don't think this is going to be a super successful investment, to be honest. Okay, now we have seen that large language model improvements are stalling. Some companies that have invested a few $1 million are catching up to other companies that moving earlier have invested billions. And so the assets of companies that have bought, for instance, accelerated computer will very soon deteriorate, will very soon devalue. And so what happened is also something on the Nvidia stock. Okay, so the Nvidia stock, and I've been very bullish on this stock. Okay, I also have an Italian channel, and I was saying in the early 2023, guys, invest in this company. It's gonna hit 1 trillion very soon. And then I said, keep investing. I bought share of this company also later in this autumn. But now I completely out of this. Why? So let's look at the performance. But this is not really interesting because in the last year we have seen, for example, an 130% improvement in the price increase, right? But when we look at the revenue increase, well, it's quite substantial. So as you can see here, the increase of price can be somehow justified by the increase of revenue, and especially when we look at the net income. But the problem holds here in the net profit margin. Guys, this net profit margin over 50% is not going to last for this company for the reason that we mentioned before, right? So when the price of the model, since it's more efficient, is going to decline, we're going to see also less interest of companies to provide this service and to push it to their customers. And so this will going to, of course, lower the demand of the accelerated computing hardware, and this will then, I mean, spark a kind of a chain where Nvidia needs to decrease also the price of their products, and in turn this will bring the net profit margin down. Okay, and so all of a sudden we're going to see the valuation metrics for companies like Nvidia skyrocket. So we have a PE ratio now of 56 that is high, but is still in line with the growth of the company. But when the profit margin decrease, well, that number is gonna explode and it's gonna be unsustainable. Okay, it is gonna be this is gonna happen, I think, sooner than later. Even though I mean there are a few other companies that are securing more investment. We saw the project Stargate, but there are also other. Now the other point that will probably hit hard Nvidia evaluation is gonna be this. So again, Nvidia has run for the last 2 years in a monopoly, without virtually without any competitor. But now the AMD is a thing. It's something that can be used quite efficiently for inference. And for example, Meta just announced that they're gonna use only the AMD Instinct MI 300X as their core accelerated computer hardware for inference. So again, we turn from a monopoly to a duopoly, and this is going to decrease the profit margin. And so, again, stock price to shrink. But think about when the price of these assets decrease, the company that holds these assets in their balance sheet are going to see also their value to decrease. Think about Meta, Microsoft, Google, Oracle itself. They committed billions of dollars with Nvidia, and they have this in the assets page in the balance sheet. That value is going to be reduced by a lot. Okay, so be prepared for that. And so what I'm doing now? Well, as usual, people that know me knows that I'm gonna short a lot Palantir and Tesla companies that have been built their price on an utopian view of the AI that is not going to happen, right? And so I'm short on this company because for sure they're gonna lose at least 30-40% of their value. At least this is what I think, right? Then I think that I can be also a little bit short on Oracle, because if we look at Oracle, we're looking at a company that has currently very high valuation metrics. So, for example, a PE ratio of 44, while exhibiting a very modest increase in revenue, very modest growth, right? So, this company I think is really highly overvalued. So I think in the next earnings season, in the next early reports, we're going to see, for example, this week, we're going to see Microsoft, and I think the revenue growth is going to be already, or going to still be around 15%. That is good, but it's not in line with the level of investment they are making. So this is gonna disappoint probably the market. And then we're gonna see Oracle again. I don't think Oracle is gonna exhibit any advancement in their revenue, so probably this stock can be hit as well. And then we're going to see some nice reports from Tesla. I think it's going to be super interesting because, again, in the Tesla income statement, we're going to just see two voices for revenue. That is basically automotive, like 80% of the revenue of the company, and then the remaining energy things. But there is um, no clue about AI related revenue. So this company is still an automotive company. And I think at that level of valuation, this is going to make a market very, very irrational, very, very anxious. Okay. Not to talk about Palantir. I did an AI, a video about Palantir with AI, but if you want, we can deep dive on this maxi bubble. There's going to be probably, the headline 20-year in the future to say, okay, do you remember the AI bubble? Palantir is going to be Cisco. Okay. So thank you very much. Subscribe. This is the first video I make, like talking myself. So if you enjoy, I'm going to try to improve and to make this more interesting to you. Thank you very much.